I'm Leah Lane, an award-winning travel writer and author of Places I Remember, Tales, Truths, Delights from 100 Countries. On this podcast, we share conversations with travelers about fascinating destinations and memorable experiences around the world. I lived in the Philippines for a couple of months years ago, and I know that the country has some of the most beautiful islands in the world. Most of us know little about it otherwise as a place to travel, so let's go over some basics. Located in the Pacific Ocean near the equator, the Republic of the Philippines consists of over 7,000 islands, about 2,000 of which are inhabited. These islands are divided into three groups: Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Philippine history includes Spanish rule, American rule, and Japanese occupation. The country today is a mix of over 100 ethnic groups, cultures, and influences. Our guest is David Haldane, who lives with his family part of the year in the Philippines. In his book, A Tooth in My Popsicle, he offers stories and anecdotes of life as an expat on a beautiful Philippine island. Welcome, David, to Places I Remember.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with the capital, Manila. It's a densely populated city on the island of Luzon, which mixes Spanish colonial architecture with modern skyscrapers. Metropolitan Manila encompasses 6 cities and 12 towns. It's on the South China Sea, and it's the capital of the Philippines. So it's historic and modern, rich and poor. Tell us what you'd visit in Manila if you were traveling there.
Okay, well, first, let me say that Manila is not my favorite part of the Philippines. That said, it's a great place to visit, and there are many very interesting things there. Probably my favorite part of Manila is the area called Intramuros, and that is the old walled city within the city. And it's really fascinating because it's just so historic. And the thing that I remember the most about being there was tracing Jose Rizal's final walk to where he was executed by the Spaniards. And there's things like that. They actually have footprints starting where he was imprisoned, going along the sidewalk, ending up in the park at the spot where he was executed.
When was that?
It was right at the very end of the Spanish colonial period, just before the U.S. stepped in, and that was in 1898. He was a spokesman for the revolution, although he wasn't an active revolutionist.
I know Intramuros is also home to a couple of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. There's the Baroque 16th century San Agustin Church, and there's Fort Santiago, which was a military prison. So I agree with you. It's one of the more interesting areas. Makati is the area I probably would stay at. That's the more high-end area. It has a lot of culture and entertainment.
And great shopping.
What would you shop for if you were going shopping in the Philippines?
I think the best place to go in Manila is the Mall of Asia, which is it's the largest mall in the Philippines and something like the 8th largest mall in the world, I think. And it's quite amazing. It's overlooking the ocean. What you go shopping for, almost everything is cheaper in the Philippines than it is certainly in the US and many other places. So it's a good place for going shopping no matter what you're looking for.
I agree. Okay. Well, if you go to Manila, you might want to take a day trip out there to a coconut plantation or a volcano waterfall. There are lots of day trips offered. You could go to the UNESCO listed natural sites of Banue and Banat rice terraces. They're 2,000 years old, and you can hike to a waterfall. Have you done that, David?
I have, not right in Manila. There's a waterfall not too far. I would also add, this is a little bit outside of Manila. It's like a day's drive, but a place called Baguio.
Yes, I've been there. Yes.
Beautiful. It's north of Manila, beautiful rice terraces. It's a gorgeous city, and it's kind of up in the mountains. So it's probably the place in the Philippines that has the best climate. If you come from California or someplace like that, you like that kind of climate, Baguio feels almost like Southern California.
I know much of the Philippines is humid. I think the best time to visit is in the winter when it gets a little less so. Would you agree?
I would say yes.
A lot of rain.
But it's warm tropical rain, and it's actually quite pleasant. If you're sitting in a house, you feel this incredible drumbeat on the house, like that. for about 15 seconds and then it goes away,
Oh, I
but
love that.
yeah, me too. I find it very soothing.
That puts me to sleep.
People's
I put
looking.
that on just to go to sleep in white noise, just to hear it.
Yes, I
Perfect.
agree. Filipinos think I'm totally weird because I like that.
Well, the gem of the Philippines are the uncrowded tropical islands. Many remain unspoiled with clear water, palms, sand beaches, coral reefs. Let's mention a few of them. Tell me about the island of Cebu.
Well, Cebu, pretty much everywhere has beautiful beaches, and the city of Cebu is very interesting as well. I've been scuba diving there once or twice off of some of the beaches around Cebu. The areas of Cebu are Mactan, Lapu-Lapu. Really, all those beaches are beautiful. The one thing in Cebu to do that I really suggest is they have an annual fiesta there called the Sanulog Fiesta, which is the third Sunday of January. And that's probably the biggest fiesta, at least the most famous fiesta in the Philippines.
Well, I know there are
But
many fiestas and towns have their own one, right? All year long, and you want to find them, right?
every town and barangay has a fiesta every year for its patron saint. So pretty much wherever you are in the Philippines, there's a fiesta going on somewhere nearby.
So seek it out if you can, because they're wonderful to attend for sure.
Yeah.
So Cebu has a lot of clubs and bars and galleries. It's got a city, as you said, so there's some culture and nightlife. What about the island of Palawan?
I love Palawan. There's a beautiful city, small city there called Puerto Princesa. There's something called the Underground River, which is a really interesting place.
You paddle in the dark, I know. You go through there,
exactly.
right? Very quiet.
Yeah, very quiet. El Nido is a beautiful place in Palawan to go to, and there's a lot of island hopping there, and a place called Coron. Those are all areas where you go get a little boat and they'll take you everywhere. So Palawan is beautiful.
I can imagine it's uncrowded, even though it's popular, because every place, as you said, you can find a little island near it, even if the main island is busy.
Well, that's true. As you mentioned earlier, there's 7,000 plus islands, so you're never far from an almost deserted island.
Perfection. Perfection.
Yeah.
There's a private island on Palawan called Banwa Private Island. I read about this one. I did not go there. It costs $100,000 a night, and it's considered the most expensive island resort in the world. It's 15 acres. Yes. And it's a 2-hour helicopter or seaplane ride from Manila. So you can go all the way to the top. You can go in a hut or you could go there.
I'm not aware of that. And I don't think I'll be spending any months anytime soon, but maybe one day if I win the lottery,
right. Nice to think about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the island of Boroquay. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Boroquay is also beautiful. Now that's a very popular island. There's a lot of tourists there, but again, there's so many different places there. Boracay is probably more developed than some of the other islands. There's a lot of lovely resorts there and beautiful beaches. There's a nightlife in Boracay, which you don't get everywhere. There's a lot of beach bars and people hanging out, drinking and dancing on the beach. It got a lot of attention a few years ago because the president Duterte actually shut down Boracay for about 6 months because he was concerned about the environment, pollution of the environment. So he basically said, okay, that's it. No more business in Boracay. And they'd also, a lot of the resorts had violated national ordinances about building too close to the ocean, So I was there shortly after they reopened it. And it was amazing. It looked like the public officials had gone through the island. There's a 30-meter mark and it's illegal to build anything below that. There were resorts with their whole sides just, cut off and you could see the rooms. They've recovered now and they've rebuilt all that. And it's a wonderful place to go. So I highly recommend Boracay.
Well, it has been called the world's best island by one of the magazines that Travel and Leisure or Condé Nast, one of them, and Palawan has as well. So I guess it's recovered. It's got powdery white beach, glorious sunsets. It's got Mount Luho with panoramic views over the island and shipwrecks, and it sounds perfect. So let's hear about your island, that one you live near.
The island that I'm most familiar with is called Siargao Island, and it's actually where my wife is from. She was born there, and we have a little property there, and we go there quite a lot on the weekends. We have a little beach cabin there. It actually historically was a very quiet, kind of undiscovered island, and then the surfers discovered it. Now it's considered the surfing capital of the Philippines. It also was named at one point by Condé Nast magazine as the best island destination in
In
Asia.
Asia, right.
When Boracay was closed by Duterte for that period that I told you about, Siargao really benefited because everyone that was headed to Boracay changed their plans and went to Siargao. Probably the most interesting place, and you want to see the culture, is a town called General Luna. And that's where they have every year they have the international surfing competition there. And that's where most of the tourists and foreigners hang out. Just all kinds of things to see there and nightlife. But it's also very islandy. It's not a city, it's really an island town. There's also a place called Magpapunko Beach, which is where
I like that.
yeah, Magpapunko. That means squatting rock. And it's named that because indeed there's a big boulder there, and at low tide, it looks just like it's squatting there. Magpapunko is famous for its rock pools. They're just tide pools, and during low tide, you can go swimming in them. It's just like a swimming pool. It's like a warm saltwater swimming pool, and a lot of tourists go there. That's actually where we have our property in Magpapunko, and it's a beautiful place. It's changed tremendously since the first time I saw it about 20 years ago, when nothing was on the island. In fact, my wife and I built the first structure on the island, which was a little wooden structure with hearts in the ceiling because we were in love,
Oh,
Yeah, it's not there because it was blown away by the recent typhoon 2 years ago. And so was a lot of other things at Siargao, but they're coming back. I was just there last weekend, and it's a beautiful place to visit. Real quickly, they also have an international fishing tournament in April in a place called Pilar. And probably my favorite place is another island very near Siargao called Bucas Grande. And what's interesting about that island is there's only one way in, and it's through a place called Socorro Cove, and that's the most famous, desirable place. And there's only one way to get in, and it's through a tunnel that's only open at low tide. So you get in a boat and you go through this little tunnel, and you got to get out before the tide goes up, or you're stuck there for the
well,
night.
that doesn't sound so bad if you get stuck there.
No, I can think of worse places to be stuck. It's a beautiful place with a lot of underwater caves and rock formations. And one of my favorite things is there's a little lagoon there with thousands of stingless jellyfish, and you can go stingless. They can't sting.
Oh, because they are beautiful. If they're
They're
stingless,
beautiful.
that's
So you go
superb.
under
Yeah.
there, you go swimming there underwater with a mask or something, and you just see all these beautiful jellyfish, and they won't hurt you.
Wow.
So,
Love it. I
yeah.
love these ideas. And you can see there's stuff to do in the Philippines, but many travelers don't know much about the Philippines culture or the reality. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's start with food. Everybody's interested in that. What are some of the favorites that travelers shouldn't miss?
What I've found is that Filipinos will pretty much eat everything or anything, So some of it's kind of appealing to travelers, some of it not so much. One thing that's traditional, and you see at every fiesta, every birthday party, every celebration, is lechon, the pig on the table. The first time I saw it, I was shocked because here's this big whole pig, roasted pig. The only thing that was missing was the apple in its mouth, the whole pig. And that took a little getting used to, but I did eventually, and it's delicious and it's lovely. And, you have to get over your Western prejudices. They have a dessert that's called halo halo, which is really lovely. Ice and fruits and, all kinds of beautiful things. It's different wherever you go. Ube is a flavor. It's a purple flavor that they make ice cream and cakes and everything out of ube. And then there's some kind of weird things that not everyone likes to eat. Like I've never tasted them. Balut is one of the famous things. And what that is, it's actual eggs with duck embryos,
They have that in Vietnam as well. I
Yes,
know. I've
and
been offered
the
it there.
locals love that and they swear by it. My wife loves it, and I can't bring myself
Yeah.
to try it. I'm sorry.
How about adobo? That's more popular. That's just
Oh,
a
yeah,
regular
that's very
stew,
good.
right?
Yeah, very good, very tasty. There are a lot of shakes and fruit drinks, mango shakes, and things like that. There's a drink that you only get out in the very remote islands, like the one that I live on, called tuba. It's a coconut wine, I guess. They get it from the sap of the trees, and it only lasts like maybe 2 or 3 days, and then it goes bad. So you can't buy it in a store.
You got to drink
You
it all up.
you have to get some local kid to climb the coconut tree for you and get it out, and then you drink it right away, and it's very powerful.
Well, maybe
And
after that, the egg with the fetus in it.
yeah, that's right.
You eat it, right? Sounds delicious. I mean, most of the things are tropical and
Yeah.
lovely. Let me ask you about the infrastructure because I know it's a society that's still developing its
Yeah.
tourism, and I know it's a problem. What are some of the situations with the infrastructure in the Philippines?
Well, things are not reliable like they are in the West, like electricity. I mean, brownouts are common, and every house, including ours, has a generator, a diesel generator. So when the power goes out, you can start up the generator. As a matter of fact, we're planning to go solar. And we found a very good solar person here in Surigao, where we live. So people, if they can afford it, they go solar. We've actually been saving money to do that. It will, in the long run, make our lives much easier here. Transportation is problematic at times. I'm sure that there are laws in the Philippines about how people should drive, but I've never seen one enforced.
I remember that.
Yeah. And so you kind of have to just go with the flow.
Yeah. I remember also, did they still drive with the lights off at night?
Oh, yes, all
Oh
the time.
boy.
Yeah, it amazes me. I mean, and you'll see motorcycles with the whole families on them, 7 people with no lights driving down the street at night.
Uh,
It's amazing that more people are not killed here in
yeah.
accidents.
Let's talk about one of the best elements of the country, the people.
Yes,
Filipinos are among the happiest and friendliest people on the globe. I remember that very well. I was working there, how supportive they were, how hospitable they were. I was just blown
yes.
away by how lovely they were. So what do you think? What makes them that way? Why are they so kind?
Well, I agree. They are. I mean, there's a warmth in the culture, and they're very friendly to visitors. They go out of their way to make you feel welcome. They smile. They're very religious also. They tend to be Catholic. Most of them are Catholic, and they take their faith very seriously for the most part. And I think that may have something to do with their disposition. They tend to be very optimistic. And, I sort of say that, the basic credo is, despite all evidence to the contrary, everything will be just fine. That's kind of the way
Right.
Filipinos feel about life. And you can see that in their attitude. It was one of the things that I loved about my wife when I first met her, and one of the things that I admire, and I always want to be more like that, be more optimistic. Being a Westerner, I tend to sink into these dark moods. Filipinos don't do that too much.
Right.
They see the positive side of things, and I love that.
I remember how wonderful they were with elders. They have a title of respect automatically that they bestowed on someone whose age is over theirs. So it's a
Yes,
very respectful thing. And they even, I remember, touched the older person's hand
that's right.
to their forehead in a blessing. It was
That's right.
wonderful.
Yeah, that's right. And they have their titles built into the language. Kuya means older brother, Ate means older sister, and various names. And of course, being 74 years old myself, I really appreciate that.
I like it too. I like it too. I know they love nature. They live in harmony with all kinds of lowly creatures. So you have to get
Yeah,
used to that a little bit too. It's part of their wonderful love of life. So
yeah,
I
absolutely.
would say that the islands and the people are the two things that made me remember Philippines as a wonderful place.
And I would concur. The physical beauty of the place, the whole country, everywhere you look, and just the warmth and joy of the people, and especially with how poor people here are. There's a great deal of poverty here, and there's not a lot of opportunity. They so appreciate what they do have. so grateful just for life itself. And that's very inspiring to me.
Very inspiring.
Yeah.
Well, the name of the podcast is Places I Remember. So we share memories. David?
My most vivid memory of the Philippines is when I met my wife. And, I told you she comes from Siargao Island, from a little village. And we met online, actually, and we corresponded for a while. And then I came to visit her, and she met me in Surigao City, where we now live, in the port, with a chaperone. Hardly said a word to me. And within an hour, we were on a boat full of bananas and pigs on the way to Siargao Island to meet mom and dad. And that was an incredible experience. We walked into this little village. Now, this is 20 years ago. All these kids are following me through the streets, and she takes me into mom and dad's house. And here the whole family is sitting there, mom, dad, 4 brothers and sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone. And outside, half the town, probably 60 people, are outside looking in the windows. And I said, Ivy, what are all these people here for? And they said, oh, they've never seen a foreigner up close. And it was really something. I had just met Ivy, and we had made no plans. We certainly didn't have any plans at that point to get married. And the first thing her mom says to me is, so you want to marry my daughter? And poor Ivy's tensing up next to me, and it was an interrogation. But it said a lot about not only her family, but about the culture. And I don't know to what extent it's still like that, but I think it is largely. They were not going to let their daughter leave that little town without a pretty thorough investigation into who she was going with. And then after that, I went out to the beach, and the townspeople had a teacher translating for them, and they asked me questions. And in the end, I guess I passed the test,
Yes, you did.
They gave us their blessing, and so we were able to move forward. But
it gives a sense of community. I know that there's a tremendous sense of community in these little villages where, just what you said, I felt it as well.
Yeah, very much so. They were not going to let her go off with anybody. And it wasn't just her parents, it was the whole town.
Right. Very interesting. Well, you can read more of this kind of anecdote in David Haldane's Memories of Life in the Philippines in his entertaining new book, A Tooth in My Popsicle. Thank you, David, for your insights about this still much untraveled destination. It was fun.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed talking with you.
Thanks for listening to our award-winning podcast. We've recorded over 100 episodes of Places I Remember, so follow us on any podcast app. And new monthly episodes are also on YouTube with gorgeous video. My book, Places I Remember, is available in print and Kindle, and I read the audio version. Follow my travel writing at Forbes.com. Contact me at the links in the show notes or on my website, placesirememberlealane.com, and keep making your own travel memories.